Someone threw out a
Ew.
joint com survey. Ooh.
Ew. Jayco is awful. I mean, as far as those inspections are over, Jayco is not that bad if you have everything. It's there are worse ones, but still, it's never fun.
Mm-mm.
Never, never fun. So,
Waiting on
oh,
AHA.
okay, yeah. Have fun with that. Yeah. Aka's, yeah. Well, I mean, it's government. They're gonna be far behind. Have they told you the timeline, Leanne?
When they
Oh
can get
yeah,
to it, I'm sure. Oh, we
yeah,
have
oh
some
yeah,
renewals.
yeah. And you never know. Yeah, renewals are over 300 days
See?
out. That is wild. That is. You know what? That's the kind of nonsense that tells you you need to talk to your local congressman
Absolutely.
and make them put pressure on Aka and ask the question of, hey,
Leanne,
how is why? Why?
Leanne,
If
I
you can't
forget.
handle it, huh?
I was Leanne, where are you located? Totally
She's
forgot.
in Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, she's in Florida. Said I can go be a surveyor. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I won't. Aka's. I am looking forward to the day that Aka has to deal with the Chevron decision. That's all I'm going to say to that right now. I look forward to it. And I hope to God I'm contacted because I would love to take part in however I can.
We thought about
Because
doing
it
them.
is wild. It
We
is
thought,
wild the decisions they make and how they make depending on what the statutes actually say. It's
is there anything new from that?
no,
No.
no. So Aka doesn't change. That's the problem. I mean, the paperwork is the same paperwork from 30 years ago. They just put it online.
Twice a year.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but
Oh,
yeah, so
well, let's go ahead and
yeah,
dive
it's
into it. I did
yeah,
put
yeah,
a
let's jump
little
into it.
presentation together, but for those of you that
Ooh.
weren't on well, just a little visual. But for those of you that weren't on last week's webinar, we sort of talked about our new and upcoming training program platform that healthcare educational institutes and students can utilize, make it a little simpler rather than, professor getting on their blackboard and assigning a link to the students and relying on them to get it done. This sort of program allows the university to have central management and access to all their students and student certificates. So we covered a little bit of that yesterday, but we did mention towards the end of the webinar that we were a bit unsure what we wanted to talk about, but Jose and I sort of had a good conversation and we wanted to keep it on the EPICompliance side of things. And I'd say a common question that we get asked here at EPICompliance, Jose, is the difference between a gap analysis and a risk analysis. And so that's going to be today's subject.
Yeah.
And yeah, let
Yeah.
me
And
share
I mean,
screen.
it's too funny.
Let me know
That
when you can
that's one of the
see.
major questions you get.
Uh, no, we get tons of questions, Jose, but this was, I would say
This is
this
a
was
common one.
I would say I would put this in the commonality.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but, again, for those of you that are maybe attending these webinars for the first time, Jose, he's got over 17 years of experience in healthcare and healthcare consulting, and currently owns a mental telehealth practice. And he has very extensive experience conducting these security risk assessments. So, in Jose's realm, he's probably looking at this question like, really?
No, no, no,
But
no. This is a common question, right?
yeah.
So the trick is how far back do we go, right? Because if we go to pre-advent of HIPAA security, dating myself a little bit, where HIPAA privacy was the only thing that mattered,
Hmm.
right? We're going back to the times when internet, you heard a really annoying sound that made it sound like you had tinnitus just to get onto the internet. If you go back to those times of days, you would do a gap analysis mostly for HIPAA privacy to see what was going on. Now you could do it internally, or you could do it with an external partner, kind of like a consultant like ourselves, or just to see what was going on. But there was never any metrics involved with seeing how you measured up against the industry. There was never a carrot or stick. It was technically always supposed to be done annually if you
Hmm.
go back to the original HIPAA legislation. But as the advent of technology and HIPAA security came to the forefront, we really have moved away from the HIPAA privacy at all. The irony is that everything's cyclical, and with all the bullshit with HIPAA security, people are going back to a lot of paper. So you end up having a HIPAA privacy component now popping back up, like the freaking measles.
Right.
So it's something to where nowadays, when you're talking a gap analysis, traditionally it's done internally. This is our internal gap analysis. Let's take a look. Let's do a self-assessment. And let's see how we do in comparison to. Now, normally what you want to do is you want to have HIPAA security risk analysis,
Hmm.
and then you do the gap analysis based off of the vulnerabilities that you found in the risk analysis.
So you want to perform the other way around ever then. As
No,
in a
so you wouldn't do
practice.
the gap analysis first. What you
Okay.
would do is you would do the security risk analysis first to get a baseline, right? And then from there, you would do the internal gap analysis to see, are we closing the gap? Have we addressed the issues? Have we not addressed the issues? Are we unable to address said issues? All of those factors come into play in that respect. So that's the
Sure.
way I would really, in a 10,000-foot view, on a 20-minute call like this, that's the way I would kind of set that up. So if you use my practice, we would hire somebody, or I'd get one of our other consultants, and I'd say, hey, knock out the security risk analysis. And then me, as part of the executive team with my office manager, we would sit down and say, okay, how do we want to tackle the issues that were found? Right?
Sure.
So perhaps we're using the security management plan. That should be part of your risk analysis now. And basing the plan that we're going to do throughout the year on that management plan. Or maybe we're creating the management plan internally after the SRA is done. So then we're sitting down and saying, okay, let's go for the top hitters, the ones that I always see, right? So usually there's a problem with IT.
Sure.
Either IT is not doing what they need to do because the practice is not contracting for those services, or IT is not doing it and showing proof that they're doing what they say they're doing, right? So if it's the former, okay, cool. Do we have it in our budget to talk to IT to do more service? Or are we just being a cheap ass?
Right.
Okay. So let's just assume that it was just me being a cheap ass, and then we modify that and we move on. Then the next year it would basically be, okay, IT, I need proof that you're doing this. I need proof that you're monitoring. I need proof that you're upgrading definitions on antivirus and anti-malware. I need proof that if we have a server, all of the different redundancies involved with having a server. Where is it stored? Where's the information stored? Appropriate locks, appropriate upgrades, appropriate protections, and it just continues down that list.
Inventory list come into play too.
The inventory always comes into play.
Yeah.
Now, the inventory list, let me put it like this. If I'm in a one doc, two doc shop, right, where this is still a private company, and it's probably the senior docs that are the ones that are the owners, right? Usually you
Sure.
see this into a practice that has no more than two partners and has no more than, I would say, four providers, 20 total staff. That's when you see that the provider partners are listening to their accountants and pushing a lot of products through the business to get the tax reduction, but that's screwing them on the compliance side, right? So let me give you an example. If I have a small business, and what
Hmm.
used to happen a lot is the whole family cell phone plan would be under the business. Why? It's a tax deduction.
Yeah, it's a write
But then
off.
what does
Yeah.
that mean if I'm in healthcare? That means that if any of those devices have PHI, I got to have those protected. Do I really want to have all of them linked on the same contract? So you start getting into that piece. Then you have okay, let's say that my car, I bought a car for me, I bought a car for my wife, I bought a car for the kid. All right, well, the kid works for me, he runs errands for me, it's a family business, tax deduction. Let's go. Right. So now I'm creating liabilities in all kinds of ways. So it's you have those kinds of scenarios. Oh, well, I'm going to go buy this laptop. It's Black Friday or it's Amazon's whatever July 10th, whatever. I can't remember what it is. The Amazon
Black
Day or
Friday.
whatever crap. There you
There's
go. Black Friday, Amazon Day, whatever it is. And I bought a laptop. Well, I want to deduct it. So a Prime Day.
Prime
Thank you,
Day.
Leanne. Yep,
Leanne.
yep. Tells you how often I take part, right? Leanne, interesting. How many packages you got going to you today? So but but the basic idea is again, like what are we looking at? What are we addressing? When you have a larger practice with multiple partners, all of those familial, a majority of those familial accounting tricks are gotten rid of because you have a CFO involved. You have other partners that are like, well, why are we going to do that for your family and not my family? And then you're like, well, now it doesn't make any sense because the savings I was getting on taxes, now I got to add 15, 20 more people. Forget about it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things that can happen with the gap analysis, but you really want to go itemized by itemized. And it may be something that you go and look at throughout the year. And let's shoot for this section. If we're looking at HIPAA security, let's look at the HR portion in this month or this quarter. All right, let's address that stuff. Let's make sure that's good to go. Let's move on to the next piece. Let's go to the technical side. Let's go to some of the admin parts. Let's go to some of the physical parts. You know what I mean? So there's different ways to attack this with using the gap analysis. However, the more honest you are with yourself, the better the results are going to be. Here's
I would
what I
say
mean.
that's another common sense thing that sort of goes out the window at sometimes
You would
when
you
answering
would
these questions.
think, you would
Yeah.
think, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so here's the problem, right? I'm not saying that sometimes office managers are trying to justify their job, but sometimes they're doing it and they're with the best of intentions saying, yes, we are doing this at an organizational level. But then
Sure.
when an auditor like myself comes in and tests it, the employees don't know their ass from their elbow. So what happens? They're not following through with what you set up organizationally. So did you do the job?
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's the human element that's always going to screw something like this up. Right. So it's one thing. Okay, cool. Yeah, we didn't really have anything for disaster preparedness. All right, cool. Let's customize it. We've got it, but nobody knows about it. We have an organizational hierarchy. You went through all the office politics to get everybody in their spots, and everybody has their little fiefdoms, and the line employee doesn't know what the hell's going on. There's a distinct problem when you have when you have practices that are more than 3 offices. And that problem is that each individual office thinks that their personal manager or supervisor is everything.
Hmm. Yeah.
Very, very rarely do they have an organizational sense of who is the HIPAA security officer, who is the HIPAA privacy officer, who is the OSHA officer. And that is some basic stuff.
Very much. Very much.
You know what I mean? Like it is wild. You
And
see this all the time in the hospitals. All the time. A hospital will never, if you go to any random person in a hospital, I've said in about 3 hours. Well, Leanne, if you'd like, I would be more than happy. We can figure out something and we'll pop by and just ask them Ask a random person up front in 3 different locations and see if they give you 3 different answers. No, I hate to say it, but no matter how good you are, yeah, they all tend to forget. Absolutely. But so these are the kinds of things that, if we're being honest, a gap analysis is supposed to catch, but it's garbage in, garbage out. If the data I put into this thing is bad, then the result is going to be toilet paper.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So we've just got to be honest when we do these internal gap analyses. Are we going to be honest with ourselves and hold ourselves accountable? You know, and so this is also where it comes back to, if I am in a business culture where it is perfect or it is garbage, you, that's the wrong way to look at compliance. Because there's no
Compliance is
such thing as
about,
perfect.
well, exactly that, and
There's
it's
no such thing as perfect. Nobody is perfect. Look at what just happened a couple days ago. Was it a couple days ago? No,
chain.
Friday.
Well,
Friday.
oh, you're talking
Dude,
about
even
the,
the airplanes couldn't launch.
yeah, yeah, that was wild. I have a friend that works for Amazon. Well, they had a day off because they couldn't get into their systems. Pretty crazy. He works at a real estate
Amazon,
department. Yeah,
banks,
huge company.
hospitals. And it was because of CloudStrike.
No, well,
And the crazy part is, for half the morning, people did not. What if we don't use Epic? I don't know if so. CloudStrike wouldn't even have addressed Epic, or if we don't use Epi. If you're talking about EPICompliance, you can still do a gap analysis on your own.
I was gonna
Remember that
say,
the Remember that the requirements for a gap analysis are the same for a security risk analysis. The difference is who's doing it, right? So you got three options. You can get a security risk analysis that you've already done, or get one done, and then base the gap analysis off of that, because you have every single, you should, if the SRA is done properly, you should have a measure on not just a pass fail, but whether there's a risk measurement on um on every single one of the 280 pieces of this. And that's just you as the covered entity, not to mention the conversation about the business associates, right? So that's the
it's a
easiest
lot.
way to do it. Yeah, it's a lot, but that's why you gotta, the journey of 1,000 steps starts with the first, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we just got to go little by little, day by day, step by step, right? But yeah, so you got to keep them on file. But when it comes to the hard way is going and just building this um out of Leanne, definitely. I'll make sure Ray and I set up an email and a call, and we'll knock that out. But when it comes to uh De nada. So basically, when it comes to how do I get the gap analysis piece, right? How do I get those measurements? You can do it the hard way, which is look up this HIPAA security law and then itemize that all the way through.
You could go to
The
Health and Human Services Department.gov and cipher it if
Yeah,
you'd like.
have fun with that. Transforming legalese into what HHS is requiring into what you're doing is very, very difficult. The third way, which is the medium way, which requires a lot of trust, is if you have IT already, you ask them for what they're doing on the technical side, and then you go at it on the admin side, on the physical side, on your own. The problem is that you're piecemealing something together that you have no idea how accurate you're actually being, right? So if you're not using EPICompliance, then you need to have a set of policies and procedures from somebody, and hopefully they have a tool or they've given you a tool to be able to figure this out. The federal government also has a tool, which Ray can send everybody the link to, the self-assessment. The self-assessment is not acceptable when it comes to a testing if you're looking for macro or MIPS, right? So
Limited.
don't count on that, because it goes back to the same thing again. Well, I'm going to give myself an A. Think we're doing this. Yeah, we're doing this pretty good. And you're just, for lack of a better term, you're Christmas treeing this freaking thing. And when an auditor comes in and they point out the first thing and they're like, well, either you have a Secret Service moment If anybody caught any of those interrogations from yesterday,
The
either you're
drinking the
incompetent.
water.
Yeah, either you're incompetent over here
Mhm.
or you're just stupid. But no way do you end up looking good here, right? So no problem, Julia. But we're more than happy to help you out. Asking any questions like that, or maybe looking for something for specifically your organization. So
Well, another
definitely,
thing I'll add to Jose about the
yeah,
doing it through the HHS.gov site is they don't necessarily provide you with a remediation plan. It's more so
yeah.
you're really just checking off the box that you did it. There's not really nothing. There's
It
nothing more
doesn't link to
intuitive.
anywhere.
Yeah, and
So I mean, but it goes back to let's real quick go back to the culture since we've gotten off the three different bunny trails, and I don't mind it, but I want to make sure that we really, when it comes to compliance, we have to have the right culture. Everybody from the executive team down has to be on the same culture of we're not seeking perfection, we're just looking to be better.
right.
Every day. We just got to be a little bit better. We just got to do the best that we can. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to ask questions. Just don't make the same mistake. Don't ask the same questions, right? So when we have a mistake, we got to use it as a teachable moment for the entire organization. And it's absolutely, culture is extremely hard to change, right? You can spend months just reading books, listening to podcasts, listening to people speak, going to conferences about culture, right? But part of it is trust. If we look at the stereotype for someone who's in compliance right now, you look at, yeah, and higher, yeah, but you got to look at what it is that the stereotype is for a compliance officer. I mean, I hate to say it, but normally you're thinking about the same kind of person that would be in internal affairs at a police station. Nobody likes them. They think they're a tight ass. They think that
Yeah,
they're so by the book, but they don't understand any of the why. And it doesn't help that the compliance officer is generally one of the only people in the entire organization that understands the ramifications for their actions.
the
They
fines
understand that
associated.
if the federal government wanted to, they could come in and shut the entire thing down, charge the business $50,000 per incident of anything they found wrong.
And then you're out of a job.
Forget that. You'll be lucky if you're not in jail if you're part of the
Oh,
executive
as
team.
the compliance officer, absolutely. I'm
As
talking
the
about
compliance officer, as an office
employee.
manager, like you got to remember, ever since the PPACA came out, this is fundraising for the federal government. I don't know if you guys know this, but we're running a deficit every year. Like you are now seen guilty until proven innocent. So the compliance officer knows this. Does the rest of the team know this? They need to not be afraid to say, "Hey, I don't understand this," or "Hey, I'm not doing this right." Yeah, yeah. But Leanne, HIPAA still applies. HIPAA still applies. So it's just something to where um we have a problem where you can get into very, very deep. But I don't want to scare anybody, but it's all about the culture. So when you're doing the gap analysis, when you're doing the SRA, one of the things that's important to look at is what does the team know? And what does the team understand that compliance is? The more you can demystify it and help them understand that it is for the protection of everyone, the more buy-in you're going to get. You're never going to get 100% buy-in. You don't need 100% buy-in. 80-20 rule is great. Yeah, absolutely. So when you find the gap analysis, when you do the gap analysis, when you find some issues, you address them. Then you come back 90 to 120 days later is normally what I suggest. Because any change in your business, 30 days out, you're not gonna see a
Not going to see it.
significant change. Or and if you are looking for a significant change in 30 days, you don't have enough data points. It's 90 to 120 realistically. So once you have that 90 to 120 days, you just go back and say, hey, how are we doing? Are we doing better or worse? Cool. Next.
Question. Jose,
Yeah.
is that a loose requirement? Or is that just sort of industry standard? You know,
So
I'm sorry, is that a federal requirement or is that sort of just
no, so that's not so when we are looking at the federal requirement, the federal requirement says that you have to do training periodically. Doing
right?
a gap analysis with the team would be considered training. You just have to
Fair.
document it as such, right? You have to do at least one security risk analysis every year. But that doesn't mean you can't do one every month, one every quarter. Now, we're doing with a gap analysis, you would be doing an internal assessment that's piggybacking off of the security risk analysis. It's almost acting without writing down everything. It's almost acting as your security management plan, honestly, if you're looking at it properly. But you just got to make sure that you document it correctly. So if you notice, I'm mentioning one thing, which is the reason why we're doing it, but we're also knocking out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other sections. We just have to make sure
Right.
we document it properly so we can multitask. Because most of us don't have the resources to have someone 100% just do compliance all day, every day. And if we did, we have two problems. One, that's a large organization,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
a
hospital level.
large organization. And two, what is all the stuff they're going into? The problem is that so many pieces of just HIPAA security goes into so many facets of your business. It goes into billing, it goes into HR, it goes into admin, it goes into IT, it goes into physical security, it goes into operations, it goes into, you know what I mean? Like, there is not a piece of healthcare that it doesn't touch. And whatever it doesn't touch, PCI comes in to kick you in the teeth to do the same thing. Now, granted, most people in healthcare don't have to worry about PCI because your credit card processor already does that for you. Your bank already does that for you. So thankfully, we don't have to worry about that. But just know there's another piece right there just waiting. Man, Leanne, you
Cash is
just take
king.
what? You just take cash? Literally? No, and she probably doesn't even take change. It's dollar bills or nothing.
Venmo only.
Dollar bills are nothing. She's got those markers like like every grocery store, right? Let's make sure this stuff isn't counterfeit, you know.
Yeah, I got the
So,
marker. Bump, bump, bump. This looks good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, you get the nice checks. Got it. But yeah, no, so
Yeah, that's right.
we've got the gap analysis. We just have to attack it in different pieces, right? So I would honestly say if you've never done one before, you want a security and risk analysis done. And then in your spare time as an office manager, or when you're having trouble sleeping, you want to go and color code because I know way too many office managers that have 15 friggin' pen colors or
Mhm.
highlighter colors, and you want to block them all into similar categories. So that way you can address them all at the same time rather than going through the SRAs or the gap analyses just straight from the legislation because there's stuff that's all over the place. You'll have one statute that says something about HR, and then the next one is IT, and then the next one is physical, and you're just like, well, how do I keep track of all this?
I can tell you
Like it's just jumping all over the place.
the tool that they provide on the government side is not that user friendly. It's
You
all over the
said
place.
government, right?
The Health and Human
You,
Services Department
yeah, yeah,
tool.
you said government, right?
Yes.
Why would you ever assume it's user friendly?
I know. Never is.
Anybody who's dealt with
Never is.
HHS,
It's on
CMS,
purpose.
ACA, it's not user friendly.
No.
It's VA. Oh my God. Let's not even touch the VA. But yeah, so if I'm a small
Intentional.
practice, yeah, if I'm a small practice, I want to go and look at those pieces. Now, there are certain things that pop up in the news that can help influence certain areas that you want to discuss internally and say, hey, maybe we need to adjust for this, maybe we need to adjust for that. What is our plan for, A, B, C, and D? Right now we're in hurricane season,
No.
right? So if you haven't looked at your hurricane policies, not just whether you're going to get flooded, your insurance policies, I'm talking about your disaster preparedness policies. You want to take a look at them. With a certain incident that occurred recently, your active shooter stuff should be taken into account. If you haven't taken a look at that one, do you even have one? Most people, if they don't have a company like EPICompliance or HIPAA one, you're not going to do it because most people don't have it. I mean, it's just it's just not normally part of the package unless you pay a lawyer and they're doing it and they're updating it annually and they're charging you anywhere between $5,000 and $20,000 for just the policies. That doesn't count for the procedures for most of
Uh,
the attorneys that I've worked with. What's really annoying is when I see an attorney get one, usually they'll call us to do it for them. And
well,
basically they just pay us our sticker price and then they have their upsell fee for reviewing it.
there's a few states now that require active shooter training
Yeah,
policies. What that's
yeah. They covered under OSHA.
California and I think soon to be New York. I want to say they're
Does
making it.
Texas have one?
I'll have to look. I'll have to look into it. Not sure.
But yeah, so yeah, so do we have anybody got any questions about the gap analysis? Any other questions about the gap analysis right here? Like this? No, cool. All right. So when we look at the risk analysis, you're looking at 280 different measures, like I said. It technically encompasses the 3 different sections of HIPAA security. When we're doing it for HIPAA privacy, obviously it only covers the HIPAA privacy portions, but it's quite similar in its breakdown.
Hmm.
Your physical, your technical, and then your administrative, which encompasses a little bit of everything. When we do a risk analysis, though, a piece that is coming into more and more of a spotlight nowadays, thanks to a lot of things that are happening, is your business associates. So though I am a covered entity, let's use my practice as an example, I contract out providers. I have several providers. I work for several other organizations. They work for me part-time. They work for them part-time. Everybody's happy. When it
1099s.
comes, huh?
1099s.
Yep, 1099s. So when it comes to 1099ers, we have to make sure that we get certain assertions. And that's where your business associate really comes into play. And that's what really saves your keister if there is an issue. If you have any doubt that a lot of situations now are coming from either employees or business associates, please go take a look at OCR's website. And
And
that
you'll see
no list
yourself.
will tell you, and you'll see. We haven't looked at it in a while, Ray.
Or
But
Go
I
go
would,
to YouTube and search breach naughty list, and you'll see our
yeah,
presentation on
yeah,
that
that's
one.
right. We did a video on it, so you can definitely take a look at it. And it's updated. I want to say it's updated daily, Ray, but if not, it's updated weekly.
Uh, I want to say it's daily, but yeah, I mean it's the turnaround there is pretty good. I mean you'll
Yeah. So, and what you'll do is you'll see that it's the organization plus where their breach was coming from. And way too many times now, we're seeing that it's coming from a business associate. It's not coming from the covered entities anymore because the covered entities are doing at least what they are able to do.
right.
Right. So that's where the risk analysis really comes into play. That's where your lawyering really comes into play, saying, hey, we're doing everything that we can to mitigate the risk. But there are just certain things that are out of our control. Perfect example of this was the Change Healthcare cyber attack. There's not a damn thing you could do to prevent it. Nothing you could have done. If you're a practice that was affected by the Change Healthcare, there was nothing you could have done. It's just the way that cookie crumbled
Mhm.
because Change is normally not even your vendor. They're a vendor of your vendors. Right? So there's just no way. But the risk analysis shows, hey, look, this for sure didn't come from us because of A, B, C, and D. So it's a way that we can use it as a first tool for first line of defense. Now, just as much as it can be a first line of defense, if a wrong employee has access to the report once the risk analysis is complete, they can make a nice little whistleblower case. And whistleblowers make money. All right. They make money. So make sure that anybody involved with the risk analysis and the results and the report are people that you can trust in the organization. So the idea is that a good risk analysis covers the admin, the physical, and the technical. An IT company normally will only do the technical. If there's a couple of consultants that I'm aware of in Florida that are RNs by nature, they will only do the administrative. They'll say they're doing the whole thing, but when we've looked at the reports as both as consultants and as auditors for the federal government, we found that it doesn't hold up because it doesn't cover everything. So you want to make sure that when you're getting a security risk analysis, that they cover everything, that they ask for HR, that they go over your policies and procedures, that they ask your staff, that they tour the facilities in some way, shape, or form. Because
Yeah.
it's one thing if I on a phone call, the staff tells me, yeah, the back door by the lunchroom is always locked. Always. All the time, except for the one time that I go do that walkthrough where it's magically unlocked. It's way too often,
Gave
man. And
themselves
it's not
up.
like it's wild to me because it's one of those deals where the only person that knows I'm coming usually is the owner of the practice and the office manager. That's my point of contact.
Sure.
It
Secret
happens.
shop.
Yeah, it happens so often that I mean, there's certain things that you know that you've got people that are aware, right? Because part of it is me as an auditor, I'm walking around, I'm taking a look, I'm just seeing how the office operates, you know. Um, I'm trying to be as conspicuous as possible, but I'm okay with getting asked questions by staff members. I actually want that because if they don't recognize me and know who I am, they should be confronting me. Why are you walking around? You're not an employee. Can I help you? Can I guide you back to your exam room or to the waiting room or to the office manager? You know, so these are positive behaviors that I always notate. When I don't see it, then I'm like, nobody cared at all that I was just walking around. Unsupervised, nobody
Uh,
knows me.
what's your percentage of that?
That one is usually 50-50. That one is
Okay.
usually 50-50. Usually the smaller, that one's interesting too, because I've noticed that the smaller offices usually care more when I'm wandering around than the larger offices.
I wonder why that is. I guess
So my theory, the internal theory that we have is that
too many people
there
involved.
are when you have multiple offices. So like let's use Leanne as an example. She's got a dozen locations. Yeah. But I'm sure, Leanne, somebody walking around in one of your 12 locations, they may not have met everybody on the executive team. I don't show up looking like a scrub. I do wear a suit. So what happens? If I look like I belong and I act like I belong, no one's really going to bother me. It happens far more easily than you think. Leanne, I'm just letting you know. I'm just using you as an example. Yeah, it happens all the time. Like, what are you doing? Why are you letting Joe Schmo, just because he looks nice in a suit, you're just gonna let him walk around the office?
Not
Nobody's gonna
good.
ask him a question. He's gonna pass by 10 people and nobody's gonna ask him a question. But these are the kinds of things as an executive team that you want to be aware of, right? As the local office manager, you want to be aware of this. And again, part of it is familiarity. And part
Mm.
of it is either the staff doesn't want to cause an issue because potentially it's someone important that they don't know. And all of a sudden they're in trouble for asking somebody a question, which goes back to that compliance culture that we were talking about. Like, hey, look, I don't know you. You could be my boss's boss's boss, but I don't know you. And you're in an area that is a restricted or, not open access area. Who are you? Who are you with? Why are you here? That is a very, very normal question. Very, very normal. And it should be a normal question. The biggest thing is going to be your tone, right? Like, do you want to be hyper confrontational about it? Absolutely not. You don't want to get in trouble. But on the flip side of that, there is a way to have that conversation with someone. Hello, sir. How are you doing today? Who are you here to see? Oh, are you a patient? Let's get you back in that exam room. What exam room did you come out of? So that way
Ask
you
for a
can
business
address
card
this.
too. I like
Ask for a business
as
card, like Leanne said. But even still, like depending on the specialty, you could be dealing with a bunch of Alzheimer's patients. They don't know who the hell they are. You think they're going to be able to tell you? You know what I mean?
right.
Like, so what are you going to do? What are you going to, so you've got to have those conversations, have those trainings. How do we have that conversation that doesn't elevate the situation? Right. But when we're doing the risk analysis, we go through all those. We go through the HR portion. A lot of times is also missed.
Hmm.
Hey, show me proof that this person's not on the naughty list.
You're talking about the exclusions.
Yep.
Hmm.
Hey, show me that you did a background check. Cool. And then you know what I mean? Like, show me that they've done their training. When was the last time they did their training? Who was
Hopefully
their
within the
training
calendar
through?
year. Right.
Huh?
I said
Who was their
hopefully within a
training through?
year.
I mean, hopefully you'd be surprised. You, it just you got to do it, but it just passes. You don't pay attention to it. Something else is in the critical and urgent quadrant pops up, and it just drops to the wayside. But that's what these kinds of things are supposed to go and help you find. You want this risk analysis to be a freaking blood sport. It is completely counterintuitive to everyone involved with an executive team of a business where they want to do well. No, you want to fail this sucker. And the reason is because the harder that auditor is on you and they find it, all of a sudden, if there's an issue, you can go back to this is my first line of defense. This is a known issue. We are seeking to address it, which is a far better defense than I didn't know I was supposed to do that, Ossifer.
No,
Well,
absolutely.
or even worse, that the risk analysis took it easy on you
So
and
do you,
said, yeah, you're doing great. And you go and crap the bed on this side where the risk analysis said you did well. Now a lot more questions are popping up.
well, it just reinforces as well how important a third party assessment is over doing it yourself. Because again, they're still going to ask you, well, prove it.
Well, it's not even just prove it. It's just, well, you're telling me that your risk analysis said that you were good to go here, but you had a breach, or me as an auditor caught you doing this wrong here.
Right.
What happened? You better have a good excuse if it's good to go here and it's not good to go here.
No, I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, and then again, that's where your lawyer earns their cash. So now we never want to get to that point, but we've got to understand the proper way to deal with this. The federal government does not care if you fail this thing. What they want to see is improvement from one year to the next. They want to see a culture of
which
caring.
is which is why you want to bomb it the first time.
You
So we can
want
show
I mean,
so we can
you want
show
this thing. If
gradual.
this was a steak, you barely want it to have been on the grill. You want it bleu.
Medium rare.
If it's not, if I want it just to have stopped mooing. And then every year you just look at, all right, let's progress here, let's progress there. And don't worry, every couple of years the federal government moves the goalposts anyways.
But that's something that you provide your customers, Jose, right? Sort of it's not
When
just
we do the risk analyses, yeah, we go over all those sections, which is what takes the time, honestly, and which is why it costs what it does. Um, it's you got to be able to do and have those hard conversations. So if you're going to be doing the risk analysis, you got to get everybody on the same page and say, hey, look, this needs to be a bloodbath because it needs to be done properly. We need to truly see where we are. And then we can go and have the conversation of how do we get better? Where do we go from here?
right.
It's like you have a patient comes to your office. Why? Because they passed out. Okay. let's say that they're a Medicare age patient, they passed out, they fell. We've got multiple things going on. The more upfront we are with that patient and their family from Jump Street, the better that they can be prepared for what comes next. You know, hey, that pass out wasn't a pass out, it was a stroke, it was a heart attack, it was multiple mini strokes, multiple mini heart attacks. You know what I mean? Like, and then
Mm.
by the way, on the fall, they also broke their hip, they got themselves a concussion, you know, broke their elbow, whatever the scenario is. But the more that we can be upfront with the client and with the organization, and the more the organization can be honest with themselves on what the goal is, the easier that everybody's life will be. I truly believe that most practices do not do a risk analysis as often as they should, and which is evident because it's a piece in macro, right? If it was, guys, I'm going to dispel this for you right now. If everybody was doing this, it would no longer be a way for the federal government to give you a
Lost some money.
potential bonus on their payout. And you can see it based on every right now we're on what, year 3 of macra. They've already pulled some things that used to count as points. And they do that because, oh, we got enough people doing it now. Now we don't need to give them the carrot, but the stick is still ready to there to hit you. You know, let's go back to meaningful use real quick. It's, oh, hey, you can get points on meaningful use just by submitting your prescriptions electronically. The second they got enough people doing that electronically, nope, we stop counting it.
That's
It's the
nuts, man.
same thing. It's the same thing, right? So
User
we
friendly.
want to go
No
we
more.
want to go and mitigate risk. Like we want to go and see where our holes are. I was helping my kid build a sandcastle at a beach a couple weeks ago, and he couldn't figure out why water was going into the sandcastle. And I'm like, well, we got to find the holes in the wall. We don't find the holes in the wall, we're never gonna find where the water is. We're not gonna be able to address how to cover the hole if we don't know where it's coming from. Let's go take a look, you
Yeah.
know? So it's the same thing, the exact same thing. We just have to be aware and honest and unafraid of the results, right? You can't just ostrich this, put your head in the sand, and it's, if I don't see it, it can't hurt me. You know, it's not the monster under your bed. So
No, I agree. No,
cool,
good
cool.
point. Well, what else we got? Does the
So
audience
I
have
mean,
any questions about risk analysis?
yeah, do we have any questions about this? I know that we've been picking up the questions as they come in. Um, Thankfully that helps out my ADD.
You kind of already answered it. You know, you sort of answered it earlier in terms of, when should gap analysis versus risk analysis be conducted. So you had mentioned,
Federally, there's no mandate, there's no regulation of how
right,
often a gap analysis needs to be done, right?
right.
It's just what are we looking to do? So, for example, a gap analysis by any technical version, I just did a gap analysis on my billing last month.
Did it? So
Wow.
another question. I don't know if I've seen a template online for gap analysis, or is there
It's
one?
because there isn't really. That's why
I don't think I've seen one.
yeah, that's why what was her name?
EPICompliance provides a gap analysis template.
Julia had asked a question about it. So there isn't really a gap analysis template that you can just find. I mean, you can find anything on the internet nowadays, right? But there isn't one that's official.
I was going
And
to say there's
honestly,
not one that's on the Health and Human Services Department. I know that
yeah,
much.
but I mean, a gap analysis is just you looking at your practices and procedures of a specific department. So you can
Right.
do a billing gap analysis. You can do an administrative one. You can do a HIPAA one. You can do an OSHA one. You can do an OIG one. It's just what are we looking to find? You know, so for like on our billing one, we were looking to find, okay, what is Medicare paying us? How often are they paying us? How quickly are they paying us?
Mm.
And then we wanted to figure out, okay, what do we need to do better? Oh, we need to do this. Oh, we need to do that. Oh, we need to plug that hole. Or, oh, okay, we're doing everything we need to do. On to the next thing. So it's just a matter of taking a look and seeing how you want to do it. Now, a lot of people are doing gap analysis for different departments. It's just whether they call it a gap analysis. Like I said, it's a spot check. You
Well,
know,
what would you do or what advice would you give? Maybe I'm not saying Julia and her organization, but maybe an organization that is just starting to implement these analysis for the first time. Maybe
so
a brand new practice.
the
Or
speed of which we do this is completely dependent upon who is paying us for our services.
sure,
So, for example, if I'm a brand new practice and I have a business model like Leanne's, where she said their letter of protection and PIP, right? I can hold off till the end of the year. But I want to be strategic about this, right? If I'm going to be participating with macro MIPS or the federal government in any way, shape, or form, where I can get an incentive to do this, then perhaps it is something that I want to do early. Because if I'm a brand new practice, it makes perfect sense why everything is going to be blood red because we are less than 30 days old. So then
makes sense.
it gives us a very low bar that by which we can go and proceed, right?
Yeah,
So think
makes
about
sense.
this. I'm going to age myself here. This is Cool
Hmm.
Runnings from the 90s. There'd never been a Jamaican bobsled team. So the bar for them was what? Show up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, then what was the next time? Do better. Place. You know what I mean? Like, so we just got to take a look at it like that. And I hope you guys enjoy the analogy. This is the only way I can make it make sense and make this dry stuff fun for me to explain it. So I hope it's more fun for you guys to hear it and you can internalize the information a little bit better that way. But it's that kind of a concept for a new practice.
Sure.
For an established practice, for a practice that's changing ownership, it's a great way to find out where are the holes here because someone introduced me to this used car and I bought it, but I don't know where all the problems are. All right, you're taking that used car, you're taking it to the mechanic. All right, let's go. How deep do we want to get? There are some things that a small practice, you can when we do the risk analysis, we can go and say, hey, look, you're 2 location, 5 providers. You don't need to worry about this. You don't need to worry about that. And we can justify those things for you without you having to come up with, yeah, we don't do that. No, no, no. We don't do that because my favorite one is a small practice, less than 20 employees. What possible reason would you have a manned, not unmanned, a manned, anonymous HIPAA security hotline?
Oh,
You kidding me? I got less than 20 people working with me. I know everybody's voice. I don't need to see their
yeah.
number.
That's great.
It's just dumb. Like, what is the point of that? Now, I'm a 400 person organization. I've got 15 locations. They don't know who the freaking executive team is. They don't know who the officers are. Now we got a different situation here. Right? So
Yeah,
it's just a matter of you have to know what the rules are before you can expect to win. You can't go to your friend's house to play Monopoly, not ask what the house rules are.
true.
If you don't worry. I want to play Monopoly with you because you're gonna lose. We'll be best friends.
Well,
You got to know what the house rules are. If you don't know
yeah,
what the house rules are, you are never going to win. The house always wins. So that's what the risk analysis does for you. A proper risk analysis gives you the guideline of these are the rules. Proper security management plan with the risk analysis gives you the tool of these are the rules and this is where to go. Not how to go, but where to go. The how is still very, very, there are infinite possibilities because there's different ways, there's a million ways to be working in the healthcare in the healthcare ecosystem here in the United States, which is a beautiful thing. But it's harder for us as a consultant firm to talk to you about the how. We can tell you the what. The how is the hard part. The how is how that sausage is made, right? So that's what that's what we kind of got, you know. Leanne, I definitely know that we need to follow up, and we'll definitely send out Ray. You send out an email, or you want me
Julia,
to
we'll
reach?
follow up with you as well. And
Yeah,
yeah, if
Julia will follow up with you as well. And if
everybody,
anybody ever has any questions like this, one, you can definitely message us through any which way, through email, through the YouTube channel. So
Mhm.
if this is something where you're like, hey, I want to kind of send this to my office manager or my executive team so they can take a look at it. And this way you can have the conversation without having the conversation, right? If you're on here or you're watching this, then it's because you at least mildly care about compliance and the concerns that you have for your practice, but you may not be as proficient in explaining some of the concepts that you might just be understanding, or you understand well enough for yourself, but it's hard to explain to others, or maybe the others are just parent deaf, you know, let's just say what it is. So that's where, you know, someone like myself or Ray can definitely help you guys out and make sure that you guys stay out of trouble. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I like the way an orange shirt looks on me, but an orange jumpsuit,
no, sir.
not really my type.
I'm
Not really my type.
gonna
So
post. So I posted our YouTube channel in the chat. If you guys could like and subscribe. Again, we've been doing these webinars since October of last year. So we got quite a few in the
in the can.
library now.
Yeah,
If you guys would like us to talk about any specific topics, maybe
definitely,
regarding your,
Sarah.
absolutely, Sarah,
You,
thank you.
So we'll just send you an intro email and then we can talk about details. You can just respond there and we'll talk details. Um yeah, next week we've got one of my favorite healthcare attorneys coming on. We're going to be talking about some merger and some M&A stuff, merger acquisitions. We're going to be talking a little bit about, you know, if I'm looking at working with a private equity or an ACO, is the juice worth the squeeze on that? What do I need to be aware of? I'm going to push some of that Chevron decision just because I'm
Mhm.
excited for it. So that one's one that I'm looking forward to. Her name is Sam Prokop. She's with Gunster Law. They're a rather large health. They're a rather large legal firm here in Florida, and she's, I believe, a partner. She'll give you all the credentials. They got all kinds of titles for law firms. So, but yeah, we're looking forward to it, and I would like to thank everybody for coming on, and we'll see you guys next week. We're here to help you guys out in any way that we can. Please, please, please do not hesitate to ask any questions. And if you've got any topic ideas, Ray and
Yes.
I are always open.
We
We
asked
are
we
more than
asked
happy to
last week's
shuffle things.
group and nobody said anything. We gotta get somebody to give us something
Man,
here. Come on,
yeah,
man.
I'm telling you, Ray,
Come
the
on.
when once that first one comes on, we're gonna have like
I'm
15
gonna
of them back to back. And until
I'm
then,
gonna get
there's a lot of
the
stupid
party
people in.
popper. Let's go.
Well, you know, until then, we have a lot of stupid people doing stupid things that make news, so we have plenty to talk about. You know,
That is for certain. The
like
well
what
is
was it?
definitely not going to run dry, but we're always interested
No,
in
no, no, no.
our
The,
audience and what you know, there's got to be something. There's got to be something
yep,
out there.
yep. So perfect, guys. Well, then stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks, Jose. Thank you everyone for joining in. We'll see you next week.